Happy Thursday, January 20th. Oh, shoot, 6th? I think it's the 26th. Yeah, 26th, 2023. It's hard to keep track. I mean, yeah, snowplow in my lane. Ouch. I just about got clocked a little bit ago. It was just on a in-town street, but, you know, the roads are worse today than they were yesterday because the wind blew all night, and it was not good. Anyway, yeah, it's all drifting. That's what happens when you're wide open in the areas like where I'm at. The wind, you know, we had about 4 to 5 inches of snow the other day, and now the wind's blowing. So yeah, it did not make for a good morning, and the morning's not over, so I need to be careful. But yeah, I got T-boned in the daughter. T-bone. She almost made it to town. Good. Almost got T-boned in the middle of town because, you know, I was going straight. There was a van in front of me, and then I was behind it and going down the road, and I didn't have a stop sign or a yield sign. So he kept going, I kept going, and then the person over here to my left in a big SUV starts going. I'm like, ah! Don't wreck the DigiByte. Man, I can't replace it. It's irreplaceable. So I got to keep it running. Not going out and buying another car. Keep this baby going. Don't be trashing it. The other side door was affected in the rollover 2 years ago. I mean, it opens a little funny, but it still closes. Let's not have this door get messed up, which it almost did. Anyway, well, speaking of getting messed up, last night on Twitter Spaces and on Twitter primarily, I don't know, they may have a YouTube channel, but Project Veritas, as in truth, Veritas, in vino veritas, there's truth in wine. So they released like a 10-minute expose type video. That's what they do. They have undercover people go in and get people talking in various organizations and spilling their guts. See, so he's in the ditch right here. Be careful. But he's pulling them out, so I gotta make sure I don't get hit. Yeah, these drifts. Holy cow. Slow down, Westwood. So last night when they dropped that information, it was with someone from Pfizer. And there's a question, well, what's his real title? What's he really do? But anyway, the person they were talking to, he was having some drinks, spilling his guts, talking about not gain of function, because they don't call it gain of function research. Essentially what gain of function is trying to take a virus and mutate it, enhance it, mix it with other viruses, other DNA possibly, and, you know, this mRNA stuff. I may be talking out of turn. Basically, to simplify it, it's taking a virus and making it more powerful by engineering it. It's called gain of function, and you can't do that in the United States. And this Fauci's been accused of doing that with this the C19 virus. Rand Paul, and look at the Senate testimony, you know, them going back and forth, Fauci and Rand Paul, and, you know, you'll kind of get the idea. Well, this guy from Pfizer is saying, well, we don't call it that. It's more directed evolution. So what this guy claims is this guy at Pfizer claims that they are looking into essentially mutating the viruses outside of nature, trying to replicate nature so that they can predict the next variant of a virus. And so that way they can have the vaccines ready to go, and snow drifts. They can have the vaccines ready to go if it mutates in nature. So they're trying to game out nature and get ahead of nature a little bit so that they can have the vaccines ready and make a lot of money on it. But of course, you know, save people. And so that was the idea. So it's essentially gain of function. They just call it directed evolution. Sounds godlike to me. Sounds like you're trying to monkey with nature again, and there's plenty of novels and movies that kind of tell you that's not a good idea. You know, start monkeying with nature. What, the Island of Dr. Moreau, and then Frankenstein, a classic by Mary Shelley. You know, here you got this doctor. It's actually Dr. Frankenstein. The monster is not called Frankenstein. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, I think it was, is the doctor who creates the monster. And so it's Frankenstein's Monster is what it was. but it was an unnatural thing that he did, trying to put pieces and parts of human beings together and reanimate a corpse, and not really realizing the consequences of doing such a thing, that, hey, when you create it, you're kind of playing God, and there are responsibilities that come with that. This is the same van that turned yesterday and slowed traffic down. I know who that is. It's funny. Anyway, yeah, you start monkeying with nature, and you might get some results you don't like, and that's been taught throughout history. So what is alleged to be going on at one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world is a little shocking. And now you've got more research coming out that says, well, maybe it does cause some problems when you take it, in certain age groups. But you should still take it. I saw Joe Scarborough talking about I don't even know what his show is. I think it's on MSNBC. But he was talking about with what's his wife, girlfriend, co-host. Oh my gosh, her dad was the big. Man, I can't even think of the name. Can't even think of it. Blonde, short hair, looks like a Russian spy that you'd see in a movie. Oh man, what the heck was her dad's name? What's her name? I mean, anyway, deep, dark, goes way back, covert operations guy. Brzezinski. Yeah, that's it. I think that's it. So anyway, Scarborough's talking about, oh yeah, I got 3 of the pricks. I should have gotten the 4th because, I got sick. I got the COVID, and, I was out for a few weeks, and, I was really sick. And she says, oh, more like months. He's like, well, it was a few weeks. No, it was months. 3 months, she said. And I'm thinking, 3 months? You're sick with it? And because you didn't get enough of it? And so you should have gotten more of it, or you wouldn't have got, and I saw an interesting tweet. Somebody said, oh man, I got to get topped up for my polio vaccine. I missed it. Don't want to get polio. It's like, you think about it, these vaccines in the past, they were supposed to give you a little bit of the juice so that your body would recognize it. You don't need a bucket full. You just need a little bit, and the body's like, oh, okay, I see. I know what that is. Next time, I'll be able to fight you better. It's like going to battle with an enemy, and then you realize what their patterns are, and you're like, okay, now I can engage this better next time, because the first time didn't go so well. But now I know what they're doing. It's like, sports. The other team, our high school football team, for a long time, they were just, all they would do is run the ball. Never throw the ball. Run. And they're pretty good. And they beat pretty much everybody around here. But then when they got to the playoffs and they started playing some really tough teams, they knew they were going to run. And so that's what they keyed on. They're like, beat us with the pass. I dare you. So they'd stack the line and bring up the linebackers, and they'd play the run. Because they'd seen it so many times, they're like, I can fight this. This is no problem. That's the same theory with the vaccine. It's like you put a little bit in, the body's like, okay, I see what the game plan is. I know who you are, and so next time I see you, I know how to fight. I know how to attack you. You don't need to keep doing it. The body's like, how many times do you got to get run over before you realize, hey, maybe we should play the run? That's what they're doing. Hey, you need 6, 7 boosters because, it's going to help. If you've seen it once, you kind of know what's going to happen. Why do you need to constantly get beat in the ground? Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, that was his story. Just should have had another one. He would have been protected more-ish. The logic of this whole thing, listen, I feel bad. I do. I feel bad for the people who've been injured and who are damaged by this. It's not good. And, what they're going through, they did what they thought they were supposed to do. Do this, and you're going to make everybody else safe and protected, but it didn't work. It hasn't worked. It seems like the people who are getting the disease are the ones that have gotten the pricks. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I feel bad that people were deceived into this. But see, this is the whole thing. And I saw that the creator of Dilbert, this Scott Adams, I think it was, He came out over the weekend and says, you were right. Everybody was right. I was wrong. All my research, and it sounded like half sarcasm, but, he's talking about, I shouldn't have gotten it. You guys won. You guys were right. The ones that said don't get it, you were right. I admit it. And then he kind of couched it within the, you just don't trust government. You don't trust the powers that be. And that got you through this. I mean, you were right this time. You were right not to trust them. And I'm thinking, yeah, that kind of goes to the core of it. I mean, it really does. Even if he's being sarcastic or not, it's almost saying, well, you guys didn't do any research. You just didn't do it because you didn't trust the people who were telling you to get it. And I'm thinking, well, that's probably a pretty good reason not to get it. Because if you've been trusting government to tell you the truth, you still believe that Oswald killed JFK by himself. So is it such a bad thing to be distrustful of government? No. Our founding fathers didn't trust government, even when they implemented it. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, what form, that somebody was asked, what form of government did you create? And it's like, it's a republic if you can keep it. And, I don't know, I may get my history wrong, but that was the concept. That was the idea. The founding fathers are saying that even then we're skeptical. They were always skeptical of democracy, straight democracy, where 51% of the people can take away 49% of everybody's stuff and enslave them. I mean, they were very distrustful of democracy. They understood the dangers of democracy, mob rule. And that's why all these checks and balances and representatives that you elect, there's that process by which you can take the passion out of it. That's why the Senate, you just have a filibuster, the senators can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because it needs to be a more deliberate process. It needs to slow down because anytime you have knee-jerk solutions, a knee-jerk reaction to something, and that's the solution, it causes problems. And that's why I think the president isn't allowed to declare war without consent of Congress. Because that is an emotional act a lot of times to where it's like, hey, we're going to war, whip up, the public's behind it before they have all the facts and realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't have went into Iraq. They didn't have weapons of mass destruction. And that was an instance where that Congress authorizes it. But you don't want to get in those moments where you've got somebody that's just a knee-jerk reactor and throws you into something. And, the will of the people at the moment might not be what the will of the people is next week. And so that's why the wheels of government move so slowly in this country, because of that reason, because we need to be thoughtful, deliberate, understand that we're here to protect the rights of the individual. That's why government has been instituted, to protect our rights, we the people. So it needs to be dragged out. It shouldn't be something that happens very quickly. Gridlock is good because then you can kind of grind out and get to the, get all the points on the table and everybody has a voice and then you vote. So it's good to distrust government. Our founding fathers did and built this government in such a way that it would stopgap itself, check and balance, check one branch of government, other one checks the other branch, and it's just a constant rock, paper, scissors. I win today, you win tomorrow. And you just have that constant tension, and that's good. It's good. Do things get done right away? No. If you had a king or a dictator, with ultimate power, then things would get done. But you're putting your faith in one person at that point. And if it's a good person, then it's going to be a great day. You're going to have great leadership. You're going to get things done. It's going to be for the people. However, throughout history, how many times does that happen? It's usually someone is benefiting themselves and creating an empire around themselves. And it's just ultimate power corrupts absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's why we have the form of government. Nothing's perfect. No form of government's perfect. But I think our ideal that we've created is pretty darn close. It gives people a voice, and it's able to be flexible and change. And there's a process to change the Constitution. There's methods to make it more malleable to move forward and evolve if it's necessary. But it's not, but there are fundamental principles that are in there that don't change. They just don't. That's why you got a Bill of Rights. Because they said this is very important. We need to make sure government understands that these are important. They should not be infringed. I've been rambling about that, but it all goes back to the point of Scott Adams from Dilbert saying that, who's the Dilbert now, but saying that, tongue-in-cheek, but I think being honest, that, you know, the people who refused to take the prick were right. And the reason why is maybe just by coincidence, maybe because, or just because they didn't trust government. That's a good enough reason for me. Because they're all out pushing it, and anytime the authority figures are trying to convince you to do something and almost force you to do it or fear you into it, I'm going the other way. I'm not doing it. That's just my natural way of doing things. I'm just not going to do it. You're not going to tell me to do it. I don't want to do it. Even if it's right, I'm not going to do it because I don't initially trust you. I just don't trust authority. Because what makes them any better than me? What makes them any better than you? That's why I say trust yourself. Just because they have a badge, just because they have a uniform, just because they got a gun, just because this, that, blah, 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 they've been anointed by the system, doesn't mean that they're looking out for your looking out for your best interest. They've flown the coop. Yeah, it's a bird. Not looking out for your best interest. I mean, they're there to protect their interest, which is the interest of the state or the system in which they find themselves, because that's what feeds them. That's what creates their retirement. That's what gives them their benefits. So naturally, they're going to kind of lean on that. That's going to be their inclination. But it takes good people to be in service of the system, which I shouldn't say they should not be in service for the system. They should realize that the system exists, the government exists to protect the rights of the people. And when you fundamentally understand that, then you operate a little bit differently. I mean, if we're good, now we've got 31, here's a good example. We've got 31 tanks headed to Ukraine. Germany's sending tanks. Other countries are sending tanks to Ukraine. And months ago, Biden stood up there at the podium and said, this is not World War III. We're not going into Ukraine, starting World War III. No, we're just giving them aid, humanitarian aid. That's how it always starts. Like Vietnam, we're sending advisors. Next thing you know, you're full scale, killing young American boys, sending them over there for what? For what? Stop communism? And now, how many shirts that you wear on your back are from Vietnam? What did we accomplish here? So, same thing with Japan. Let's drop 2 big bombs on them. And then, now they produce all kinds of electronics. Huge economy. I mean, what are we doing here? But now you've got the Ukraine situation to where you've got tanks going over there. And Biden said, it's not World War III, it's just humanitarian aid. And if we were sending tanks and planes and our soldiers, then it would be World War III. Well, we're sending tanks now. Are we kicking off World War III officially? I mean, is that what we're doing? And are you going to fight if you're told to fight? If you're deployed? Are you going to go over there and fight for I don't know what? That's going to be the question. I saw Trudeau. I mean, we have to make that decision individually. What are we fighting for? Are we fighting for American liberties? Or are we fighting to pave the way for multinational corporations to come in and create Ukraine in their image? Ask yourself that. We're funding it. Our energy is funding it through inflation, that they rob us of purchasing power. And that's how all this is getting paid for. So we got to take a hard look at that. I saw Trudeau walking down the street, and, the Canadians, I think, are getting sick of this Trudeau character. And, you know, and I just thought, this is a real life scenario. There were protesters on the street yelling, hey, you know, throwing all kinds of swear words around at Trudeau because they don't like him. And he's surrounded by several, I mean, just police officers, security services, trying to make sure that, you know, the crowd doesn't, you know, get to him. And I thought, what happens if they just stop like using their bodies as a human shield against the crowd? What happens? I mean, if Trudeau's, you know, everywhere he goes is surrounded by people in his face telling him what they think. I mean, is his attitude going to change? Will he start to, you know, get real a little bit? Because these people live in an insulated bubble. They want to take your guns. Gavin Newsom, another example, walking down the streets of, I think it was Los Angeles, I don't know, some city in California the other day, doing an interview, walk and talk, and talking about how, you know, it's just, guns are terrible. It's just, I don't even know what language he used. It was some terrible, ridiculous phrase, you know, how guns are bad. And I don't even know what it was. Something about the second, that bird was right there, about the Second Amendment. And meanwhile, right behind him, he's got a bunch of Guidos in suits, you know, with their sunglasses on and their earpieces, you know, ready to pull their firearms to shoot anybody that approaches Newsom. And I'm thinking, bro, if guns are so bad, why do you have security that's armed, ready to shoot and kill somebody, use lethal force? I mean, shouldn't every American have the right to defend themselves? I mean, we don't have the money to pay, you know, a tactical squad to follow us around. Hey, you know, I don't have my Secret Service with me everywhere I go. So what am I supposed to do? And that's what it's for. It's to protect your rights, your right to live and breathe. That's why we have a Second Amendment. And it goes big. It's bigger than that. It's to protect you from government is really what it is. A tyrannical force coming to strip you of your liberties and your rights to live, to breathe, to exist. You should be able to defend that right. And that's why there's a Second Amendment. And yet these people who are being defended with the same things that they're trying to take away from the people who founded this nation, we the people, that ordained it. A little cognitive dissonance going on there. All right, enough of my rambling. Thursday, snowy. Tomorrow's happy hour. I guess we're going dry. Lisa's on her cleanse. I mean, I'm not on the cleanse anymore. I've eaten better. Yeah, I'm eating a few more cooked items now in the evening. But just watching these little birds. I don't know what they're doing. Nesting under the DigiByte too. But tomorrow, yeah, happy hour. Lisa's got some ginger, what is it? Ginger apple shots that we're going to do, I guess. I have to figure out how to make them. Can you send them to me? Can I get like Uber Eats to deliver those if Lisa makes them and fly them in from Edmond or Oklahoma City or anyway. Yeah, tune in for happy hour tomorrow. So in all of this and all my rambling and all, this is just stuff I think about, you know, and we got to start looking at these entities that are trying to exert their will and extract our energy. We just have to, you know, whether it's Pfizer, whether it's Moderna, whether it's the government, whether, you know, whatever it is, a false war that we shouldn't be involved in. We need to start paying attention, and we need to stop feeding it. I mean, if everybody said, no, I'm not, you know, like Scott Adams said, you know, if everybody was right, you know, if everybody did that, you know, what you guys did, we'd be in better shape. If everybody just would have said no to the prick, where's the money going to come from for these things? You know, if they're not pushing any of them out the door, nobody wants it. Just got to not feed the vampire casino is really what it comes down to. All right. Love you all. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Trust yourselves. It's the most important thing. Trust yourself. Use discernment. All right. Love you all. Have a wonderful day.